one Miss Taylor Swift, a well-known childless cat lady, came out and endorsed Kamala Harris for president immediately after the debate ended. How big a deal is this?
Huge. Like, I mean, I think the timing of it was so smart. I think, like, you know that her publicist had read over that comment, like, at least the day before. Like, I know it was written to be posted right after the debate, but it was so smart to do it when everyone was talking about it, when all eyes were on what happened on stage that night. And I mean, do I have questions about whether the tone would have been different if Harris had a different performance? Maybe. But I think that her capitalizing on that moment and pushing the story about the debate forward, I can't believe I'm going to say this on television, but I think it's kind of like the white woman version of what Taraji P. Henson did at the BET Awards when she said, look up Project 2025. Yes. There was such a cultural shift after that moment that I kind of see Taylor using that opportunity to jump through.
I'm glad people forget that so many people glazed over, didn't know. As soon as she said that at the BET Awards, it was like the lights went on.
Yes.
And a huge spotlight on Project 2025. Last night, I spoke to Carole King, which was super awesome. She has been involved in politics since the 80s, and not just like performing a show and reminding people to vote, literally knocking on people's doors and saying, like, John Kerry, do you know what he stands for? Do you think that's what I mean, we're not expecting Taylor Swift to be knocking on doors, but
I think she might. I think she's the kind of person who would. I think she's.
Yeah, but then people would die, and then they can't vote.
I know.
They would actually have a heart attack and pass.
They would have a heart attack and pass away.
Would die if she said this.
That would be a huge change too.
Yes.
I mean, she's never done something as big as that. She's always done like an Instagram post. Here's my cookies, whatever. And she always notably says, "Do your own research. Here's how to register to vote." And frankly, I'm wondering if she's going to push it a little further.
So you saw the voter registration. That was kind of the big thing. You don't know what it's going to turn into. I guess like on any given day, it's like 30,000. I think 400,000 hit that. So that could kind of move the needle. But, you know, the one thing I think is the most important thing, if we think about the last few days, is like Trump's advisors know all too well what a cruel summer he had, right? When you think about that. But here's the thing. I just want to say this, but this is really important. So the MAGA media and Trump, they have not been able to shake it off. Like, think about
my God.
days. And I just think that's the most important thing about that 1-2 punch between her performance. I'm done.
Cut his mic. He could go on evermore.
If you were wondering if there was a dad at the table tonight, there sure is. It's Dan Nathan.
Yeah, Ellie's going to be excited about that.
There you go.
All right, but I just think that is a really important 1-2 punch. The performance that Kamala had and then having that sort of endorsement. I'll say one thing, though. Bruce Springsteen in 2016, like 2 nights before the election, he was with Hillary Clinton. He played a set, ready for this, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she lost Pennsylvania. You know what I mean?
Friday night before, Jay-Z and Beyonce performed for her. Maybe it was in Ohio, and Trump used that to his benefit. I think he was in Western PA, and he got on the stage and he said, I don't have Jay-Z and I don't have Beyonce, but I have you and you have me. And Pennsylvania worked for him.
And he's given up on that, though, is the thing. Like, I don't think that Donald Trump really has had that sort of connection with the audience in the same way as he did in 2016. Like, Kamala Harris, to go back to the debate, was very right when she was like, you go to one of his rallies and what he's not talking about is you at this point.
Right.
He is done with that well. He is tapped out on pretending to have sympathy for the people he wants to vote for him.
Well, if you go to the rallies now, he doesn't have a new routine. He doesn't even have a new song. It's still that same... It's still the same routine, so there's no new connection. But Republicans all week, I mean, I love Brett Favre on Twitter was reminding people that celebrity endorsements don't count. And I want to say, wow, you must not have a high opinion of yourself, Mr. Favre. But do you, beyond Taylor Swift, do you think they count? Because when George Clooney wrote that letter, his unendorsement of President Biden, that had an impact.
It seriously did have an impact. And so I actually interviewed a Swiftologist about this endorsement, the person who exists. He teaches at the University of Kansas, he's a sociologist, he teaches a Taylor Swift course. The thing I learned from that I thought was so interesting was I asked him about the friendship bracelets that the campaign is selling.
That are sold out.
That are sold out. They like went up and boom, they were gone.
Yep.
And I was like, what do you think about that? So it's kind of like appropriating Swiftiness. And he was like, it's actually really smart because Taylor Swift fans go up to each other and they talk about the bracelets and they trade them. And I was like, oh, like voter outreach? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, huh. And I hadn't thought about it like that. So maybe, but I do think it really depends what she does next, right? Like, does she kick it up? Does she have a concert for him? Does she door knock for Kamala? Does she door knock? Do any of those things? Because frankly, just getting people to go register to vote, that's not the be all end all right
And we
now.
know that she's kind of stayed on the periphery of politics. That's been her whole thing. People were upset she hadn't endorsed Kamala sooner. People were upset that she hadn't made a statement sooner. That is it too late? You know, it's obviously not too late. You can go register to vote. But people wanted something sooner. And so people, you know, are hoping that, you know, she will continue to perform, that she'll talk about this, you know, when she's out and about. Maybe she will knock on a door or two. But people want more outreach, and I think we've just seen historically that she doesn't do much more than an Instagram post.
Yep.
But you know what? If she knocks on a door or two, that go pretty viral, and I think people would expect maybe she'll come to my door, and that's how they're gonna
Or
register.
even better, they'll see that and go, I should knock on doors too.
There you
And that
go.
is what the campaign really wants.
Yeah.
them.
But the conversion of I love Taylor Swift, she loves Kamala Harris, does that get someone to then go out and vote on that date?
Well, not everyone, and again, I spent a lot of time talking to Republican Swifties this week.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, I'm dying to hear
Old
about
school.
this. You
Yes.
know, I loved hearing Donald Trump say this is going to be really bad for her business. I guess he forgot that she endorsed Joe Biden the last election
Yep.
and then went on to have the highest grossing concert tour ever.
Right.
So
And it's
yes,
still
what did
sold
the
out, yes.
Republican Swiftaroonies tell you?
So the Republican Swifties are, one, not surprised. They said she's always leaned left. She's, spoken out against Marsha Blackbird. She's, endorsed Joe Biden. Most of them were anticipating that this was going to happen, and most of them said, ironically, she's a billionaire. She can't relate to me.
But Donald Trump can.
Well, Donald Trump is going to care about foreign issues. He's going to help me be able to pay for my meals. He's going to be able to help me afford housing. That's their mindset. They think that Kamala, again, we've had this conversation, but they think that she cares more about social issues and he cares more about the economy and the issues back at home. And so the Republicans that I spoke to, and again, they're all Swifties, said, I'm still going to listen to Taylor's music. I still love her, but it's not going to change my vote.